Hello class, and welcome to my Week 5 course project presentation. My name is Peyton, and today I'll be talking about how ocean productivity changes with the seasons in different parts of the world's temperate oceans. I took a look at 3 different ocean areas: the North Pacific off of the U.S. West Coast, the North Atlantic off of the U.S. East Coast, and the South Atlantic near Argentina. And my goal was to see when and where phytoplankton, which are the tiny plants that live in the ocean, grow the most, and what causes those changes. As we discussed, I focused on 3 key areas. Phytoplankton might be small, but they are incredibly important. They form the base of the marine food web and produce about half of the Earth's oxygen. Their growth depends on 3 main things: light, nutrients, and water mixing. When sunlight increases and nutrients are available, phytoplankton multiply fast, creating what we call blooms. These are like underwater flower seasons. Understanding when and where these blooms happen helps us predict changes in marine life, fisheries, and even the global carbon cycle as for the climate change. To explore this further, I used chlorophyll A data. Chlorophyll A is a green pigment in phytoplankton, and measuring it tells us how much plankton is in the water. I looked at surface chlorophyll A levels collected from April 2015 to January 2016 at 3 different locations. One of the locations is the Endurance Array, which is in the North Pacific, the Pioneer Array in the North Atlantic, and the Argentine Basin Array in the South Atlantic. Each site represents a different type of ocean. The North Pacific is coastal, the North Atlantic is mid-ocean, and the South Atlantic is open ocean, so they naturally have different conditions. If you take a look at the graph section of my poster, you'll see 3 lines. Each one shows how chlorophyll A changed over time at each site. In the North Pacific, the blue line shoots up in spring and early summer. That's a major phytoplankton bloom. Then it drops sharply as summer goes on and stays low through the fall and winter. In the North Atlantic, the gold line stays steadier with smaller bumps, so there's still some seasonal changes, but not nearly as extreme as in the North Pacific. In the South Atlantic, the green line stays flat and low almost the entire year, showing very little phytoplankton growth. So overall, the North Pacific is the most productive and the South Atlantic is the least productive. So why do we see these differences? It all comes down to how light and nutrients change with the seasons. In spring, sunlight increases and the surface water is still mixing with deep water, bringing up nutrients. This is perfect for phytoplankton, so blooms explode. In summer, the surface warms up and forms a separate warm layer. This prevents mixing, so the nutrients get trapped below. Even though there is a lot of light, phytoplankton do start to starve and chlorophyll drops. In the fall, cooler weather and strong winds mix the water again, sometimes creating a smaller second bloom. Then in winter, there's not enough sunlight for much growth. This cycle repeats every year in temperate zones, which is why we often talk about a spring bloom being a big event for these ecosystems. When we compare all 3 oceans, geography makes a huge difference. The North Pacific has strong upwelling and coastal currents that bring a lot of nutrients to the surface. This is why this area shows that it has such big blooms. The North Atlantic has some mixing but fewer nutrient surges, so productivity is moderate. And in the South Atlantic, the open site, it is far from coasts and upwelling zones, so nutrients are very scarce. It is basically like a marine desert. So even though these sites are all in temperate zones, the local ocean conditions like current patterns and nutrient availability create very different outcomes. Another question I explored is how humans might cause these natural patterns to change, especially near the coasts. If a large city sits near the shoreline, it can often affect ocean productivity in 3 ways. Nutrient runoff is the first way, from farms and wastewater, which can feed extra phytoplankton, sometimes causing these harmful algal blooms. Pollution and sediment is the second, which can make the water cloudy, reducing the sunlight that phytoplankton need in order to bloom. The third is warm water discharge or chemical changes that can disturb the natural layering of the ocean. All of these can shift the balance of ocean ecosystems, showing that what happens on land does not stay on land. It definitely reaches the sea as well. To wrap up, we discovered that the North Pacific has had the strongest and most frequent blooms, the North Atlantic was moderate, and then the South Atlantic stayed low and stable. These patterns show how light, mixing, and nutrients work together to drive ocean productivity, and how geography and human activity can alter it or impact it. There are still open questions, like what triggers sudden spikes in chlorophyll? How do deeper nutrients and ocean currents interact? And how might climate change shift these seasonal cycles over time? Understanding these patterns helps us to better protect ocean life and manage resources in this changing world. Thank you so much for listening. And finally, we have a list of my references, and I will include my attached poster and answers to the questions on the worksheet for this week. If you have any questions or responses, please leave them below. Thank you.